San Diego.
Guess I've been working so hard, I forgot what it's like to be hardly working.
With your hosts, Annie Heilbrunn.
There's gold showers of
just gold showers
of tickets raining down.
And Craig Elsten.
I was too vociferous in my ding dong.
And featuring Braden Sopranet. The good times start now. Here are your hosts, Annie and Elsten, on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
What is happening, Padres Fan Fest? Great to be here with you. Our first ever Saturday Scrub Show edition of Annie and Elsten coming to you live. Section 113 on the concourse. We're just across the way from Grand Ole Barbecue, tucked underneath our 97.3 The Fan tent with Annie Heilbrunn and Braden Sopranet. Craig Elsten on hand for the next 2 hours, bridging the gap between Ben and Woods. And Scrabes and Gwynn coming up at 2 o'clock. Annie, great day to you. How are you?
Great day. What a great crowd out here. Pretty awesome. And what a great crowd at Fan Fest. It's great to see everybody. Fans are out in the field. They're walking through the concourse. Looks like everybody's having a good time.
Yeah, I mean, this is what it's all about, right? It's the 1st of February. The longest January I can ever remember is in the rearview mirror.
It's finally over.
I believe it was technically 66 days long, but
right.
Nonetheless, January's in the rearview mirror. Now we're just a couple of weeks away from pitchers and catchers reporting, from getting things rolling in Peoria, and next thing you know, spring training kicks off. Next thing you know, it's opening day. The Atlanta Braves are in town.
Yeah, it definitely feels good to be back at the stadium and to see everybody getting excited for baseball again. It's a beautiful day out here as well. The players are talking to the media, and we're getting some updates that are actually newsy updates. So hopefully we'll get to some of those throughout the show. So lots to pass on today.
Absolutely. Here's what we're going to do in the early going of the show. We've got 2 guests scheduled, and they're scheduled back-to-back, and the first one's supposed to hit in 8 minutes, and that's the Hall of Famer, Trevor Hoffman. Trevor's going to be here at 12:10, and then we're going to do a quick shift because at 12:20, the should-have-been Rookie of the Year will be here, Jackson Merrill, and we will speak with Jackson live at 12:20. So this is going to be a short segment so that we can get our commercial in, so we can come back, talk to Trevor, talk to Jackson back-to-back as we go forward, of course, going through everything that's happening, just kind of hitting reset, getting ready, getting you primed up for spring training, talking about all of the big, as you mentioned, some news being made during the day. We'll get that. I don't know what the news is yet. You've got it. You've got the Twitter feed right there. So we'll react to all of that. We'll go through some, fairly building block topics, under the radar, breakout candidates, extensions, trades. Maybe trades. Trades could be coming. They could be coming very soon. So those are the things we're going to do. We're going to be here till 2. At 2 o'clock, Tony Gwynn Jr., Matt Scraby will check in. They'll do an hour together, but Scraby can't end the broadcast day without doing an hour on his own. So Matt will be there alone from 3 to 4. Braden's here as well. I know you got USD later, but
I do.
It's great to have you here to be hanging with us with Con La Gente.
It's good to be out here. It's good to be excited about the Padres season. With everything that happened in the offseason, you can put it in the rearview mirror and you have everybody at Fan Fest, the kind of the kickoff to the season. You feel the energy in the ballpark, and all of a sudden you start to flush out, maybe the negative of the of how last season ended. You start looking about the new hope of the next season. And when you play a sport like baseball, we talk about it all the time about whether or not everybody's got a shot. You really do in this sport. It's got a great baseball team here in San Diego that's going to be able to go toe-to-toe with anybody in Major League Baseball, and it's going to be fun. And it's only going to be maybe a month or 2 before we're all back here for opening day. Get to hear Alex Miniak announcing out the roster.
We saw Don and Mudd up there.
Yeah, you're going to hear
stage,
the excitement. You kind of get that little game day vibe today with Fan Fest, and get excited for the season. And this is the time where you can get ready for 2025. So we've had some negative stuff during the last couple of weeks. They got to do this, they got to do that. But when you show up to an event like this, you feel the excitement. And it's like, you know what? It's time to rock and roll. Let's go take down the Dragon up there in LA.
That's exactly right. All right, it was a quick scene setter. Let's make sure we're giving our 2 great stars, all-stars, the room they need. We're going to take a really quick timeout. We're going to come back. Trevor Hoffman, Jackson Merrill, back-to-back here with you. Section 113 at Petco Park. It's Annie and Elsten underway. 2-hour get-together here on a Saturday on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. At FanFest. Welcome back, everybody. 12:10 is the time. It's the Annie and Elsten program here with you. Live from Section 113. Craig Elsten, Annie Halbrun. And that applause ain't for us, gang. That applause is for the Hall of Famers. Trevor Hoffman is joining us live in the booth. Trevor, it's always great to see you, my friend.
Greg, Annie, great to be with you guys as well, and along with a lot of fans out here at Section 113. FanFest is always awesome.
It's great. It's a good time. There's a great crowd out. It's a beautiful day. It's great.
Well, let's just start kind of right there, right? Anticipation, expectation. Padres have a great year in 2024. You can see from these fans today, everyone's fired to get back on the beam, get things rolling again. Where's your mind at?
I think this is kind of the opening of the door to spring training is when FanFest goes on. They get to see all the guys again in uniform to a degree with their jerseys, and they see it's around the corner. They can't wait to get to Peoria. And these guys are focused. They're ready to go. They know there's some unfinished business, and they want to take care of it this year.
We talk about momentum a lot sometimes, right, in baseball, and from game to game. How much, if at all, does it translate from one year to the next year, and how could that show up if it does?
That's a great question. I think when you have a core group of guys, that momentum can stick with you, and you can utilize it to your advantage. I think there's times when that momentum goes away a little bit because of an off season and maybe a bad taste in your mouth at how things finished up. But either way, you kind of have to nurture that one way or the other. Recognize every season you should have every bit of anticipation of success and nothing but good things, and set your goals lofty and high and look to achieve them. But it's this time of year that, spring brings the abundance of hope. And so we're not quite at spring yet. I know Groundhog Day's tomorrow, but I certainly feel like this year's team is capable of doing some great things as well.
Trevor, last year's bullpen wound up being such a source of strength for the San Diego Padres. Bobby Fastball's obviously locking things down at the end, but then you saw the addition of Adam Scott, the emergence of Morejon, Estrada, just stepping into the limelight. How excited are you for the stable of arms that this group has coming back?
Yeah, no doubt. When you anchor at the back end, everybody kind of has a tendency to fall into place and line up the way they want. The beginning of the year, bullpen was a little shaky, and it took some guys like an Estrada to kind of get an idea of what it looked like to be in the big leagues full time, just coming over to Chicago. So I think the opportunity these guys have had, the innings they've been able to accrue over the last year or so, is only going to help moving forward. They have it in them. They have the ability to do it. The Stephen Koleks, I remember a 3-inning stint that he had late in the year that really helped give some guys some rest, allowed us to come back and win a ball game that wouldn't have happened without him. Those are things that he's going to pull upon this year to be more consistent and not just do it once a month, once a week, but do it every time out.
Yeah, let's talk bullpens a little bit. Bullpens are fascinating, Trevor. And what is something?
Bunch of creatures down there.
A bunch of creatures. It's always an eclectic group, and they have their own little world, right? I mean, you guys have your own little world in the bullpen. What's something that fans, media, whoever, the general public doesn't understand, or maybe is misguided a little bit about what a reliever goes through the course of the season, or what goes on in a bullpen?
Yeah, I think more than anything, it's everyone kind of knows they're in the same role. You're not going to go out and have to start a game. You're not prepping for a start, but everyone's on call. And so I think everyone's aware of potentially what inning someone might be called upon. And so you start to pay attention to where the game's at the start to go, okay, Tommy and Ricky and Johnny over here, they kind of need to get ready. So I can't be screwing around as much as I would like to because these guys kind of have to get ready for the game. And likewise, if the innings pass them up where their kind of window is over to a degree, they don't want to just relax and start having a good time when the rest of the guys might be up. And so it's a dynamic that everyone's feeding off of one another, but also pulling on the same rope.
Trev, I know we don't have a ton of time with you, but I just wanted to ask, I see all these amazing kids out here. Many of them never saw you pitch.
Right.
So a lot of them don't know, maybe they've heard or their mom or dad have told them that you had the best changeup in the world while you were pitching. You had the best changeup in baseball. I'm just curious, today, 2025, who do you think has the best changeup in baseball?
Yeah, honestly, Robert Suarez has really been working on. I want to see more of Robert throwing his changeup. I want to see Morejon take his changeup to the next level. It's a pitch that I think is timeless. I think we all know about the box. We all know how hard it is to kind of throw it through that garden hose. The umpire, they tighten their zone. They know exactly where those borderlines are. The hitter's very comfortable with what that strike zone looks like. It's not like, they're giving a little inch or two out there today, or they're working the inside or up. the changeup, kind of that front to back, is always going to be a deceptive pitch that's going to be effective in the big leagues. Guys need to take advantage of that. That's something that they can go good at. It doesn't matter spin rate. It's really trusting a grip and going out and utilizing it in a position that you want to. And so, who's got the best changeup in the game right now? I couldn't tell you, but I like where Robert Suarez is at, and I think he needs to implement it a little bit more.
Probably still you if you get out there, right? Take the mound a little.
You know what? I was in minor league camp for fantasy camp, and the minor leaguers were out there. Isaiah Lowe was throwing a bullpen, and they had the track man on him. He threw it. We talked a little bit about grip. He goes, "This feels the worst a ball could ever feel in my hand." I go, "Trust it. Just throw it." He threw it. He wanted to know a number. The number to him was staggering. It was a spin rate of under 1,000. I don't think he'd thrown a changeup that had been anywhere near that. It was like 750. And it, to me, I didn't mean crap. It's just a number, right? I watched. I go, "That had good action." He heard the number and he went, wow. There was like this epiphany of the number and what I saw a sense from a feel standpoint and what he felt. Really kind of the synergy was unique. So
Yeah.
it's interesting that the changeup from an analytics standpoint sounded a certain way for him, and I got to see him what it looked like.
And I would encourage everyone to read. AJ Cassavell just did a piece again on how you developed your changeup and how it came off
Don't
of
go play beach volleyball.
a beach volleyball game and how the rest is history. Before we let you go, you work as a special advisor for the Padres. Are you still going out to spring training and doing like Trevor time and meeting with pitchers? And can you tell us a little bit more about what you do throughout
That's
the season?
idea, honestly, to get around these guys in a more comfortable atmosphere, be approachable, be an opportunity to be accessible, mingle with the fans and interact when games are in the afternoon. There's nothing better than a family to cruise out to Peoria, take a couple games in over the weekend, enjoy the sunny weather, the warmth, and know that baseball is right around the corner.
Trevor Hoffman, always appreciate you, man. I know we got to keep you moving. You got a really busy schedule, but anytime we get a chance to
I
sit
really
down and
appreciate
chat,
being with you
man.
guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Trevor.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much. There he is, the Hall of Famer, ladies and gentlemen. As good as he gets. Trevor Hoffman. I really, it's something I think about. Like, we had the privilege of covering Trev throughout his career, and people don't remember. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I heard he was a great closer. Oh, he must have done this. He must have done that. Trevor pitched most of his career with, not most, but the second half of his career with a fastball at 88.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't know the story, Trevor was playing beach volleyball and hurt his shoulder, and his velocity then went down after he rehabbed and recovered, and he had to figure out a new pitch. And he just so happened to learn the changeup, and then the rest is history with his career. But it just goes to show you how sometimes you do, like we see it with guys all the time. You get injured or something happens, and you've got to adapt, and you've got to develop your repertoire and what you do. Thanks so much, Trevor. Have a good one.
Appreciate it.
It's so awesome, by the way, to see all these guys, alumni players out here and talking to the fans. But AJ Cassavell did a piece. If you Google, you'll see it. It's really interesting. But to your point, Craig, I was looking at some of Trevor's stats last night because I forget too. And I'm like, man, and then how long he played, 18 seasons.
Yeah.
Like, just that alone, the longevity, you just don't see that. It's phenomenal.
Trevor always made such an impression on me when he was a player because he was a leader within the Padres clubhouse. And I know Ben and I have told stories over the years of covering him. There was one time in particular, I remember Ben and I were on a spring training show talking about there were so many injuries for the team.
Yes.
It was a time like Nevin was hurt, Klesko was hurt, someone was hurt. And we were talking about it and kind of talking about the training staff. And the next time we went up to Trevor to ask him just for a pregame interview, he gave us that steely, blue-eyed stare, like the one he would give to all the batters. And he's like, sorry. And he never said no in his life. He's like, sorry, boys, not until you go talk to the training staff.
Yeah.
I didn't like what you had to say. You need to level that up. And I never forgot that.
No, he's a presence. He's a
Yeah.
presence, and he's someone that you respect. I mean, you see how much he respects his clubhouse and the game, and that's someone that you respect. And he would always talk to the media, too. Didn't matter if he blew a save, if he had set a record with saves. He was always there, ready to talk to the media, and just kind of understood his role with all that.
And it's funny you say that. Yes, and
Yeah.
he was always there if he blew the save.
Yes,
If he took the loss, if he blew the save, if he was pitching in a loss, he would be at his every single time at his locker, waiting when the doors opened and the media came in.
Kirby Yates is someone who did that as well. And Jackson Merrill, who's joining us right now, he's someone who does that as well. Good game, bad game, always there in front of his locker, ready to talk to the media and answer any questions. And it's something that you just learn to respect so much over the course of the season. Jackson, how are you? It's good to see you.
How are you guys?
You're doing great.
It's incredible to have you here, Craig and Annie. It's great to see you, man. And for all the Padres fans, you were out in the community yesterday, here at FanFest today. What's the feeling just to kind of reconnect to the San Diego public?
It's good to be back. I mean, I feel like I was away for so long, so I'm excited to be back, for it to be packed again in here.
Okay, well, the last time we left you, you were watching, unfortunately, the loss to the Dodgers. You stayed out there as long as you could. You were just sad the baseball season ended, right? And then you talked a little bit about how you had never taken so many swings in your life as you did last year. I want to know what the offseason was like. Like, when did you start getting bored? When did you pick up a bat? Did you change your training program at all? How'd it go?
I was bored the first week. I don't think I made it past, like, day 3 without being bored. It was nice, relaxing, I'll say, taking some time off and just being myself and going to do some stuff I like to do. It was fun, but I got so bored so fast. Those days where you're sitting around, there's literally nothing to do, and you're just sitting there, and you're just like, you're just curious, you know. You're like, your friends. My friends are all in college, so like they have class and you know they're doing stuff, but I'm sitting there, and I'm like, wow, I have nothing to do, so I'm ready to go again.
I believe it.
Jackson, along those lines, right? A year ago at this time, a young man fighting to get to the big leagues, right? All the confidence in the world, all the hope, but a lot of unknowns, never having played center field before, not guaranteed a roster spot coming in. You go through the season, hopefully of your dreams, you know, almost Rookie of the Year, All-Star in your first season, an incredible year. What's this winter been like for you in terms of this time last year, you could probably walk down the street pretty easily. Now everyone knows who you are. Everyone knows what you've done.
I treat it the same as I did last year. You know, regardless of reputation, that doesn't really matter to me. But on the field, like, your work shows in your performance. So for me, I took my time off, but after that, I went straight back to it. You know, I still kind of picture myself having to make the team and make the leap to center field and really, like, you know, get good enough to the point in center field where it feels like super home. You know, I only have 1 year of center field on my belt, so. You know, continuing to develop that skill and then developing the hitting, too. Hitting's the hardest part of baseball. So giving myself time to develop that and get better, you know, that was huge this offseason. So staying humble, same thing that I did last year. I got to grind for it, and I got to work for it.
Yeah, you definitely didn't look like a first-year center fielder out there. It's remarkable to look back and think about how spring training, you were just learning that position, and now you're going back again this year, your sophomore season. Yeah. Is there anything that you look back on from your first year in the big leagues that maybe surprised you, either about yourself or about what life was like up here?
How easy it is to make friends.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of these guys are older than me. They're around the age of 30, you know, they're mid-20s, upper 20s to 30, and my brother is around the same age as them, so I kind of grew up with them my entire life. You know, that same age range has made it a lot easier to make friends and make a new family, but it gave me time to, like, build new relationships, you know, not just, like, meet them and know their name and know they're my teammate, but to know that they care about me as much as I care about them is huge.
We're talking with Jackson Merrill here live from FanFest on 97.3 The Fan. Again, a winter, you said you got bored early. I'm sure that mind's been working the whole time. How do you think the league adjusts to you this year? How do you think other pitchers adjust to you this year?
I mean, I don't really know what their plans are or how they're going to attack me. I felt last year was just kind of weird. You know, there was no specific plan. It was just like try to get them out. But I hope they do the same thing this year, and I just try to get a hit. You know, I like how that's my version of baseball is you play to what they're giving you. You know, you hit the ball where it's pitched. You do what you're supposed to do your job. So I'm not going to adjust any of my game besides the small, you know, the small things you have to get better. But other than that, I'm going to play the same game, and hopefully they play the same game too.
There's been a lot of outside noise about what the Dodgers are doing or maybe what the Padres haven't done yet. Are you guys paying any attention to that? What's the mindset between you and your teammates?
I mean, it's pretty clear right in front of us. Like, it's not like we don't try to pay attention to it, but it's pretty hard to miss. You know, it's kind of all over social media and all that stuff. But we don't even mind that stuff. You know, that's not us. That's not our job, and we're worried about playing baseball. We're worried about getting better. You know, I got guys in the room been playing baseball for 10 years in the league already, and it's like, well, you know, they've had ownerships from the past. They've had stuff like this. They've had teams in the past that have really not gotten along, but we're an org here, you know. We all still go along. There's nothing wrong with us just because we're not adding a bunch of players and all this stuff. People get the intention that we're not trying to win and, you know, we're not doing the best we can. But, like, you understand, we're playing a baseball game here. Like, we can beat anybody with the team that we have right now. So
I love that, Jackson. Along those lines, I know you love all the mates in the room, but like, who's somebody you're really excited to see take a step forward this year? One of the guys that you're behind that you're like, I think this is his year.
I say Tyler Wade. You know, that's my guy. He's kind of like me. You know, he's been a role player in the past years, and you know, I think he has so much room, dude. He has so much room to get better and keep getting better. And he's already so good. You know, he's teaching me things, and you know, I'm playing more than him, but he's still teaching me things like when he's on the bench and when we're talking about stealing or whatever it is on defense. Like, he's still helping me. So I think that guy gets more playing time this year. Like, he's the man. You know, he's the man in the clubhouse too. He's the man on the bench. Like, he's the guy you want to go and talk to when you first get there. So Tyler Wade.
Two quick ones. We saw you at the Aztecs game. How was that, just to be out in the community and enjoying another sport?
Yeah, it was cool. I love basketball. Went to the Aztecs game, went to a San Diego Clippers game about a month ago. You know, yeah, we've been doing all sorts of stuff, so it's nice to kind of get out of the community and just be normal. You know, that's how I like it.
And your girlfriend Sam posted yesterday you looking at your bobblehead. Is it kind of surreal just to kind of see your own bobblehead? And do you think it looked like you?
Yeah, I think it's good. I think the tattoo on it is especially like perfect. It actually has like the same detail that my arm has, so I think that's cool. I'm honored. You know, I'm honored to even have a bobblehead this year. If I didn't have one, it wouldn't change me though. You know, I would never be begging for a bobblehead. I just want to go play baseball.
What's the biggest thing you're planning on working on this spring?
Base running. I think base running. You know, I want to steal more. I want to take more bags and be more aggressive. I want to turn singles into doubles as much as possible. So probably base running.
Love it. Well, listen, man, I know we got to get you to a press availability here in a minute, but you've given us 7 minutes, and we really appreciate it. It's going to be a wild day, I know, but we look forward to seeing you out in Peoria even more out there in center field opening day.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jackson. Take care. Have a good day today.
The great Jackson Merrill.
Thanks, Jackson.
A lot of autograph seekers, photo seekers looking to take a minute of the young man's time. I've never been unimpressed. You know what I mean? Every time you talk to Jackson, you hear him speak. Somebody who keeps 2 feet on the ground, and that's why I asked a couple of those questions, because this has been, no one can know until you do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The act of becoming famous, the act of everybody knows you, wants a piece of you, wants a moment of your time. Not in a bad way, but in a really good way. Like, hey, you know, just love to dap you up, love to give you a chance, you know. But hey, it still takes energy to accommodate everybody, and I just think the way he has rolled through this is really special.
Yeah, and one of the coolest things about Jackson is he gets it. He just understands, just like Fernando Tatis Jr. did, and just like I'm sure Manny did, he understands the moment and what the fans are out here for and the work ethic that has to go into it. I think you look at someone like him and you're like, well, he's just talented. He can just go out there and do it. And then you forget the fact that he was a shortstop and he had to learn center field last year, and he played it like a veteran, and he ended up in the top center fielders for MLB this year. Rookie of the Year candidate. I think there's a lot of us out here, at least this show, and many of you fans that believe he should have gotten Rookie of the Year, and there's an argument to be made for that. But I just love the fact that he gets it. Like, he's blue collar about it. He brings his lunch pail and he wants to get to work.
For his age, to be that locked in and that professional.
Seriously.
I mean, that whole interview right there, he's 20 years old, right? I mean, he's like, he should be college level. When you talk to college kids, they're not like that, with that maturity and that mindset, right? And for a guy like him to have the season he had and be that humble and still think about, I'm just trying to put the ball where they pitch it and all that other stuff. You know, he's got the bobblehead, he's got the fame, he's got all that stuff. And he acted like he was like Trevor Hoffman in terms of his experience and that kind of veteran presence. If you got young guys acting like veterans like that, you got a really good core group here in San Diego.
And how cool that he shouts out Tyler Wade.
Yeah.
And he's like, this guy's got a lot in him, and we're going to see a different level of Tyler Wade. And that's what I like about Jackson. He appreciates like the work ethic and the guys that are going out there and they're grinding, and it's awesome. He's a good teammate.
And we talked about it last year about, you know, is he ready to come up and all the other things. We're talking about the on-field thing, but it's also the mental makeup. I mean, he proved last year on the field that he was ready to be up here, and even though we've seen him do interviews like this before, but it just assures yourself that the guy was mentally ready to be a big leaguer last year at his age, and that's another big reason why he got pulled up, because sometimes the guys got the skills, but they don't have that mental makeup to make it through an entire season. And you could tell he's ready to play each and every day. And if they had a game breakout right now, he'd be ready to bat leadoff right now.
He would be out there. And I think that's just such a great point. He is a gamer in the most classic sense, but there's just some guys who fit.
Yeah.
You know, there's just some guys who fit into a big league athletic situation, into a locker room, and Jackson Merrill fits. He's attacked his profession the right way, and as a result, we all get the exciting chance to see what he does the next several years.
But that's the thing. I mean, there's so much more to being a professional athlete than just being really, skilled on the field. I mean, especially for the guys that play at a very high elite level. And when you got that swagger, but also that humility and that designness of just being locked in all the time, you're going to have a successful career. And that's a big reason I think, we didn't see that, massive rookie slump, right? And people are throwing him, different teams are throwing him different looks, and I'm sure he's going to get tested even more.
Yeah.
But it's the same with, Fernando. Fernando was like that, too, in terms of his on-field, not fazed by anything, not fazed by the big moment. Jackson's not fazed by the big moment, and the way he talks, he wants to be up there when the time has come.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, you're so right. I mean, it's not just about how you play; it's about how you deal with failure. And we saw him go through a little bit of that last year, but also just everyone who doubted him, and who weren't sure if he was going to be able to do it. And rightfully so. Hey, you're making a jump from Double-A. Are you going to be able to hang here in the big leagues? And nobody would have been mad if he wasn't. Nobody would have held it against him if he would have had to go down and get some more reps in the minors and then come back up. But just the fact that he's able to mentally kind of adjust and go with the wins and the losses the same way, it really speaks to what his future could be, having that mental makeup.
He's the perfect example of the saying, how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yes.
I mean, the way he conducted himself here, the way he he was going to try to sign everybody's autograph if he didn't have, other obligations. He was taking pictures and everything like that. He totally understands what his role is of being a professional baseball player in San Diego. That interview really showed it. But again, he is, and there's a lot of guys on this team like that. How you do one thing is how you do everything, and he's a prime example of that. And at his age, it's pretty remarkable that he can do that.
Yeah, last thing I'd say before we break is Jackson, to me, is an example of the intersection of analytics and scouting, because the analysts looked at his numbers and said, okay, he can project to be this type of player, that type of player. Well, we don't know what is his defense going to be, center field, et cetera, et cetera. But, he has the numbers. He has the pedigree. He's got the bones, so to speak.
Yeah.
But then you meet the person, and you understand what is a differentiator between a top 20 prospect who winds up going nowhere and a top 20 prospect who winds up being an all-star, maybe a multiple-time all-star, Hall of Fame track type player. It's that attitude. It's that feeling of it's 3 days after the season, and I'm not worried about where my next party is.
Yeah.
I'm worried about I'm bored. I need my stick back in my hands. I'm thinking about the ways I'm going to get better. That's the sign of somebody. And it makes you understand why A.J. Preller was offered 17 trades the last 3 years that involved Jackson Merrill.
Right.
Those are the
and he
guys.
skipped all of them.
Those are the guys
absolutely.
Those are the guys you keep. Those are the players that you keep. You see a lot of talented players that don't act like that, and you wonder why teams let them walk, right? But when you get a player like him, those are the players that you try to do everything in your power to keep. And we got some time here before they have to make a decision on that. But there's a lot of players like him in this organization. I know Xander Bogaerts hasn't necessarily done it on the stat sheet, but that's another one of those guys. And the fact that Jackson, one of his favorite players growing up was Xander, and having both of those guys in this clubhouse, and he kind of emulates how Xander is. I mean, that's how Xander conducts himself.
Yes,
and being a pro. And we've talked about him being a pro's pro, but you get multiple of those guys in your clubhouse. I don't care what the talent is or how much money that payroll is. That's a team that's going to do damage, and that's a team that's going to win at a high level.
But you even talk about that from the top, the superstars, down to the Tyler Wades, because Tyler Wade might, he's making, $1 million this year, whatever he's making. He goes out there every day, gets reps at every single position, puts in all his work, and that when you have that synergy going, right, like the guy on the team that might get to play that day or might not, and the superstars that are doing that, that's when you kind of have, that's the mentality, that's the identity that you want to build.
All right, we had to skip a break in order to go back-to-back there with Trevor Hoffman and Jackson Merrill, but we got to have our coolest radio segment of the year.
Yes, we did.
So that's pretty cool. So I'm going to accept that trade, and we're going to go ahead and take the break now, and then we'll be back with more live from FanFest. We're going till 2. Gwynn and Chris 2 to 4 right here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 1240 live from FanFest. Welcome back, everybody. Annie and Elsten live program here with you. We are under our 97.3 The Fan tent, just inside, field side of the concourse, section 113, across the way from Grand Ole Barbecue. Downstairs, they got the leadership seminar going on right now with A.J. Preller, Eric Grupner, et al. Andy, Craig, and Braden here with you up on the concourse. Of course, we just spoke with Trevor Hoffman and Jackson Merrill back-to-back. If you missed those, you can find it on podcast. Pretty decent chance we'll replay them on Monday's show, too.
Yes.
So I'd say close to 100% chance that will be happening at some point. So
with a lot of great sound that Adam's getting right now with the Padres players. There's a lot of newsy things, as Annie was saying. We'll have all of that for you on Monday. So
yes.
Yeah, so
what have you seen? What have you heard, Annie?
What are the quotes?
Xander is officially playing shortstop, and that moves Jake Cronenworth back to second base.
Okay.
Manny Machado said that he has a gut feeling that Roki Sasaki was always going with the Dodgers. He doesn't feel like the ownership battle has affected that. He felt like that was a foregone conclusion. Guys have been talking a little bit about, ownership and whatnot, but essentially that they feel like they again have another good winning team, a team that can compete coming back. So if those are the few of the things, let's see. Mike Schultz says he's excited about Tirso Ornelas. I'm not exactly sure if that means he's just excited about him.
Hey, he's got a chance in spring training.
Okay, exactly.
Fired up.
Let's see what he's got.
So yeah, we did. Let me see if I can see anything.
That's all. Those are all comments of a team that is filled with pros, as we talked about with Merrill and Bogarts and those guys. And the thing is players like that don't care what's going on. They know what's in the clubhouse. We control what we control. Our 26. And our 26, you know what? They got to get 26 up there. We like our 26.
Right.
And we're going to go out there and compete. And you see these guys doing their workouts and everything like that. I saw Xander Bogaerts. He was taking ground balls at shortstop, getting his workout in. Do you think he cares how many players the Dodgers have? No, he's focused on himself, right? He's won multiple World Series. He's going to be locked in. We're going to go play our game, and we're going to be good. And the same thing we're talking with Jackson. I mean, these guys, you could buy into the fan emotions and the roller coaster, and obviously we participate in that as entertainers, but at the same time, those 26 guys on the roster, they're putting in their work because they know that they can go after it. They know the ball club that they have, and they're saying all the right things, and I think that's good. Now, whether or not they believe it is a different thing. They can say a lot of nice things, but I really believe that these guys are going to be locked in for the season and excited for the season to start, regardless of maybe the competition's a little bit more difficult than they're used to.
It's literally a battle. I mean, you're going in a battle with your guys. And so you do, to your point, you know that there's opponents on the other side, but these are your guys. These are who you're riding with, and you believe in each other. Machado said that everyone is concerned about the ownership lawsuit, but he has not yet had any conversations with ownership about the short or long-term vision. And I think, to your point, they're just trying to kind of put that aside and say, hey, let's go out there and let's compete and let's try to win these games. Yeah. Joe Musgrove talking now says he's going to be as involved and supportive as he can to his teammates at spring training. Physically won't be able to do much until after the start of the season. Expects to have a normal travel schedule during the season. And then he added there's some uncertainty within the organization due to the ownership lawsuit. But he said he has faith in Preller putting a competitive product on the field. Regardless of who runs the team, the players have a job to do on the field. I think it's I appreciate the fact that they're acknowledging that it's going on, and they're going to get asked about it all day, and hopefully, it's there's not much more they can say past this.
And
what
they've
they're
answered
saying
it well. They got to control the controllables.
Yeah.
They got to control what they can control,
right.
And we talked about Xander and Merrill, but Musgrove's part of that too.
Yeah.
Last night at that event that I was at, one of the keynote speakers said, and I thought it was the best definition of leadership, and I'm going to use it now all the time. He said, leadership is taking responsibility for the results. Yeah. And even though Joe is not going to be able to play, he is still doing it. He's still doing his leading. He's still showing the guy. They're doing their 44 stuff. They're taking to the Aztec game. They're doing the team building stuff. He's taking responsibility for helping get the results for this team, and that you like to see that from a lot of these players. And again, even though there might be some things going on that is above them in the organization, they're focused on themselves. That's all the answers. And as Annie mentioned, they acknowledge it. Obviously, they can't ignore it. They can't just pretend it doesn't exist. They've acknowledged the elephant in the room, and they're ready to move forward and go after it and go play. And as you mentioned before, Andy, with the challenges of how the rest of the National League got better, from a team perspective, how it is in any teams that I've been involved with, this is just how professional athletes are.
Yeah.
They never go into a game thinking they're going to lose, regardless to who they're playing. I mean, it's like, hey, look, I've been in a lot of games, in football's a little different, but it's like you watch the other team warm up, and Craig, I've talked about this when you've called high school games. You're like, that team's going to destroy that team. And I've seen it so many times. You look like, well, they're bigger than us, they're faster than us, all this other stuff. I still like what we got, and I think we go out there and win. And when you got a tight-knit group that this Padres team has, there's something about that really makes up for maybe a little bit of lack of talent. And I'm not saying this team is not talented, because they are definitely one of the best teams in Major League Baseball. But there's something to that kind of mental aspect of the game, too. And you know what? This team has shown that they're better when they got a chip on their shoulder, when they're the underdog. And they've done it. They did it last year, right? And in 2022, they had that chip on their shoulder. 2023, reading their press clippings a little bit,
right,
the hype here,
well, the hype of the
offseason
for that one,
and it kind of fell down. But when this team is lower in the standings, they got their eyes up and they're climbing. This team's scary when that's the case.
Yeah.
I like where they're at right now.
And Machado says that their guys will have to step up this year, and the core players have to perform at the highest level to fill the void of some of the players who aren't here this year, which he's right. Said that he's sad to see Jerkson Profar leave, but he's happy to see him get treated fairly in free agency. I mean, everyone understands what's going on here. He expressed some disappointment at the lack of moves, but said the goal is still to win the World Series. So, you got to band together, and you got to look around. You got to say, hey, we're going to go out there and we're going to do whatever we can do to win games.
I think maybe the most important thing that you've got in that quote list that Manny Machado said is, my elbow feels great.
Yes.
I am 100%. I have absolutely no restrictions on what I'm doing now. There are many things I couldn't do last year that I can do now. And if there's one thing that can help bridge the gap for a Profar loss, right, for having a little bit less, it's getting a 6-month Manny Machado instead of a 3.5-month Manny Machado.
And hopefully a 6-month Fernando Tatis.
Yes.
He missed a lot of time last year, too.
And it is huge for Manny to not have the offseason that he wanted last year, to not be able to do the weights that he wanted, the strength training, the regimen that he goes through every offseason that he's really
doing hang cleans at 225 the other day.
Exactly. And he loves all that stuff. So for him to come in this year having, being able to do all that stuff in the offseason, work with his trainer, take swings, feel good. That's because last year, even though he came back, his elbow bothered him the entire year. And then he had also a finger thing going on. So, I mean, it wasn't like it felt great, all of a sudden. He woke up one day and it felt great and he was like, all systems go. He just worked through it all year.
And hopefully that's the case with Arise and Tatis. I mean, I saw a clip that Schultz said that Tatis put on a show yesterday in batting practice, and he's getting another year older. I mean, we just assume that, everything's great with him all the time, but and I've said this multiple times, I totally agree. He's how old is he now? 25?
He's 25.
25.
Yeah.
I mean, he hasn't even got his man strength yet at 28. When he becomes 28, 29, he's gonna be hitting balls to the condos over there.
Yeah.
But just with his full strength. I mean, every year he gets older to a certain point, he's still climbing the ladder, and we've seen him do some impressive things. But I mean, if you look back at last year, what the team did, they did it with Manny missing significant time. They did it with, at least not in a full Manny capacity.
Yeah. For sure.
With Tatis missing significant time. Obviously, Darvish missed some time. Arise battling the wrist.
Bogarts.
I mean, Bogart's missing significant time. I mean, if these guys are coming in and are as healthy as they have been in a long time, I mean, that kind of flips things a little bit for the beginning of the season, especially with, again, talk about how great that team in LA is. You only play them 13 times.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I like the way this roster looks against the Mets and the Braves and the Phillies and the Cubs, the Diamondbacks, the Giants. Those are all going to be highly competitive series, and that's who you're really competing with, as we've mentioned on the show so many different times.
Well, and, when you talk about building off of a rock-solid core, and that's what you have with the San Diego Padres. You've got Hall of Fame level players, Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., Jackson Merrill, Yu Darvish, that have been locked in to multi-year contracts. Big-time Major League performers like Xander Bogaerts locked into Major League contracts. that means you don't have to rebuild your team every year. You start with that core. You hope for that core to excel, and now you're building around the edges of it as opposed to having to build something right in the middle. I think that's something as Padres fans that we kind of lose every once in a while.
And the team culture, right? I talked about this 3 or 4 years ago. They were trying to make an identity. What does it mean to be a Padre, right? And there was nothing before them. They had to kind of start it themselves.
Yeah.
And they slowly started adding pieces, right? First it was Will, then it was Eric, and then Manny had the big deal, and you brought in Joe, and they're really creating the culture, and now they can continue that culture. And that doesn't happen in a day. I mean, again, because they seem to they're in front of us right now in the division. It took them up in LA a long time to get what they have right now. Years of building. And this organization, from where they were when this ownership took over to where they are now, as much as everybody in this organization that is a fan and even members of the organization want the World Series tomorrow, they have gone in for the long haul, and they have made so much progress to get where they are right now compared to where they were at when I was in high school. Back in 2013, I mean, the big gap that they have overcome and how they're now competitive and how they built that culture. And when these guys move on and retire and finish out their careers, that's going to be still instilled here. And they're trying to do what so many organizations have been doing for decades. And they just trying to play a little catch up right now. And I think as much as you want that next reward tomorrow, you got to look back and see what they've accomplished a lot in terms of just building this organization.
And they're tasked with keeping it going. The guys that were in the clubhouse last year and the leaders, like you said, whoever's new that's coming in, you got to be able to continue that culture and not let it, when things get tough, because they're going to get tough, not let things slide back, not let things kind of leave you and go away from you. So, it's going to be a task, but I feel like that's what you got to do as a good team. If you want to be a good team, you got to be able to work through all that.
Absolutely. Here's what we're going to work through over the course of the next hour and change. In our second hour, we're going to talk about under-the-radar breakout candidates on this Padres roster. Who could theoretically be up for an extension, and what would be the window for those to happen? Any trades on the horizon for this club? You have to think about it. Something we chatted about a couple weeks ago, X-Factor players on this club, and keeping the virtuous cycle going, because you feel it when you're out here at Petco Park. You feel the connection between the team and the fan base, between the city and the players. It's all there. It's something that wasn't there a decade ago, something that wasn't there 2 decades ago. It's here now. There's that deep-seated connection between city and team, and I feel like that's something that is incumbent on the Padres to keep that rolling in 2025.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's take our time out. We're at the top of the hour. We chatted with Trevor Hoffman. We chatted with Jackson Merrill. We're out here. We're Section 113. If you're still coming out to FanFest, maybe you're out there listening. You had some morning Little League. Who knows?
Right.
6:30 golf appointment, whatever it was.
Golf? Did you say golf appointment?
Appointment, yeah. That's what I said about.
Honey, I got an appointment
honey,
today.
I've got an appointment at 7:30.
That's right.
I'm so sorry, I'm unavailable.
Craig, you played golf again?
I have an appointment.
No, I got to fix my tooth. Or
my
something.
chiropractor at Mission
That's right.
Trails. Yeah.
So when you have the show from 10 to 2 every day, it's hard to get the appointments. I have to go on Saturday.
Right, yeah, exactly. Golfing appointment.
So,
that was Freudian, but it was also
golfing appointment.
It was pretty good though.
Wow.
I think about it. Well, anyways, if you are coming on out, please do come on out. There's plenty of room. Lots of great things still to come. Autographs happening all afternoon long. And 97.3 The Fan broadcasting live all the way until FanFest wraps up at 4 o'clock. For Annie Hobbit and Braden Soprenet, I'm Craig Elsten. Take a quick time out. We're back with hour number 2 live from Petco Park. It's FanFest 2025. You're hearing it all on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Thank you.
Back with you live from FanFest. It's Annie and Elsten, a Saturday Scrub Show edition of the program. Along with Braden Soprenet and Annie Heilbrunn, Craig Elsten with you. We are underneath the 97.3 The Fan tent, section 113 of the concourse. Hope to see you out here. Love to see all of the listeners of the show come by. Charisma just came by, dropped off a gift for you, I see.
Nice.
So, Charisma got one of these photo books from the 2022 season at the garage sale.
Nice.
So I have one. I'm in it, in a photo with Manny, because Joe Musgrove was nice enough to grab a few Polaroids of me doing the sideline reporting with some players, and they made the book. They got in I think one of them got in the book, or one or two. And I'm too afraid to open that one. So she got, and I had to like really beg for that one. So she found me another one, so I can actually look at the inside. Yes,
You just need multiple everything, like.
But you wanted to keep its resale value? Is that what it was?
I just want to keep it in case, like, I'm ever like a grandma or something. It's like it's still good. It's still like there. But this one I can actually look at.
Just
so
like
I'm really excited.
The 1,500 schedules we have to print out
yes,
for her.
Yes, exactly. It took me 3 years to get it, but that's good. That's fine.
You get one laminated, one not laminated, one she can draw on, one she can.
Appreciate you.
That's right. Appreciate the ink at
the other
Odyssey.
One, like,
Thanks.
really under the like, it took a lot. So, anyways.
I gotta admit, one downside of being here, there's not very many downsides. The only one is I can't be at the garage sale, because like usually that's my jam.
It's awesome.
Is to go find like the most obscure jersey in history. As you know very well, it was at a previous garage sale that I found my Kevin Elster jersey, 2003. It's got the 125th anniversary patch on it. Here's the kicker. Kevin Elster never played for the Padres. Oh, it was only spring training. But somebody made him a game uniform nonetheless, and there it was, one letter away. I always had the dream when I bought it in 2003 that I would take it down and ask Brian Prilliman to take the R off and replace it with an N on Elster, and then I'd be Elsten, and then it'd be my jersey.
That's
but
awesome.
I did not have the sack to do it. I just never ever even came close to asking him, and then, of course, the letters went out of style, and, 15 variations later, I can't do it. So.
The garage sale's cool. I mean, you can find also like stuff to work out in, like stuff to work out in or sleep in. Like they just have so many old like dry fits and shirts and all that.
I've had friends like buy. I've had friends like buy like baseball pants and use them for softball.
Seriously?
Right? Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're legit like MLB baseball pants, right?
Yeah.
I've seen.
Unless they're the Nikes from last year, in which case they might be not.
Yeah, you
might
never
be a
know.
little ripped,
Yeah, exactly.
Might be a little see-through.
Little ripped. My two buddies are like super diehard Nick Martinez fans, so they bought his two, whatever jerseys they had available. They bought the two camo ones. There's a lot of cool stuff there. And I was talking to Tyler, who's usually in our chat. He went to the garage sale. He says they got a ton of like the old blue stuff still that they still have left over. That obviously a lot of people didn't buy the last couple of years, but that's a cool thing because it's all player-issued stuff.
It is, exactly. It's like straight from the clubhouse, some of it. And when the City Connects are retired this year, I bet you some of that stuff ends up at the garage sale next year as they roll out new City Connects, or at least the next few years. So you'll be able to pick up some stuff. Yeah.
Have we ever thought about what the next City Connect is going to look like?
I think a lot of like people my age are hoping it's going to be blue and orange.
I hope it's a retro one, but I've seen people saying that's lazy. I think it's cool.
I don't think it's lazy.
Well, I mean, if they just went straight 84 or something like that.
Like maybe a modern retro,
lazy.
I don't know. Like, can you retro but make it kind of cool?
A modern version of the blue and orange would be a sweet look.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you look at some of the other Team City Connects, the lazy is like, blue on blue with just like a different name across the chest, right? This is kind of lame. I don't know. I think we need to see the new City Connects for the teams this year, because this is the first year of the refresh for the teams that got on the first year, and see what they do, if they're going to keep their colors or if they're going to change their look completely, because the Boston ones were, I think, the first year, and like the city of Boston flag is the blue and yellow, right? And they look like UCLA. Are they going to keep those colors, or are they going to flip to a different like Red Sox look? Or Miami's is an old Cuban team, right? And those are sweet.
Yeah, the Sugar Kings.
Yeah, the Sugar Kings, yeah. So, like, are they going to keep with those colors? Or are they going to flip to a Miami style? So, I think when you start seeing how the other teams do theirs, it might kind of open up our eyes. Because maybe maybe the first year is more uniforms based on your city, and then the next year at the City Connect, it's like maybe everybody's going to like retro or something like that.
Or maybe you're just like a big fish taco.
If they go with minor league
yes.
jerseys, I'm going to be out. Everybody's dressed like a taco, or
Yeah.
we'll have Craig's
There's
dog.
like
We'll have Sammy the dog in the
Taco,
front.
margarita.
The
And
Chihuahua.
now we're talking.
Chihuahua and the pug.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd like to see like a retro. We already have because how many uniforms can you have? 4? What's the Nike allotment? I forget what it is.
so.
But we get a special exemption for the military Sundays. So it's not like we have like a retro ready available. It's already probably made. They probably already made it.
Well, yeah, they started working on it years ago.
Yeah,
I
right?
remember talking to a few front office people about it. Like they started working on it years ago, and they collaborate with Nike to try to find like the right color scheme and fit and how they want it to look. Fernando Tatis Jr. talking to the media right now. He says his leg feels amazing.
Amazing.
And he feels 100%. He isn't concerned about his leg impacting him during the upcoming season. His body and his swing are in a great spot. He's focused on the players that are here. And
But us too.
yes, and his head is in the right spot. He feels second to none. Fernando's feeling like Fernando. I think that's pretty clear here.
Well,
yeah.
it's a decent place to build out of, because we were talking a little bit about Fernando last segment, but I feel like in a weird way, ever since the contract was signed, one of the best days in Padres franchise history, right? Spring training 2021, statue contract, Fernando Tatis Jr. I literally went and bought full season tickets the next morning.
Yes.
Because I'm like, if you commit to him, I commit to you. And that's what I talk about when I say a virtuous cycle. You commit to players, you commit to spending, you commit to being good. The fans commit back to you.
Yeah.
And then that becomes, instead of a vicious cycle, it's a virtuous cycle. It's something that's growing upon itself, and everyone gets better as a result. But I do feel like since that, it's just been bad luck, bummer, / self-imposed wounds for Fernando Tatis Jr. The 6 shoulder subluxations in 2021, right? 42 homers, 6 times his shoulder pops out during the course of that year. Then we get to 2023, the injury, the rehab, the suspension, right? Misses an entire year. Comes back in 2023, 2022, you know what I was saying. 2022 suspended, 2023 out for 20 games, comes back, but he's finding himself, right?
Yeah.
His age 23 year was kind of lost because he had lost his age 22 year, so all of 23 was just getting his legs under him, getting the back in familiarity with the league. He comes out last year, he's looking like a brand new player, and then the leg. Then the stress reaction. All of a sudden, now we got a new problem for Fernando Tatis Jr. Well, the idea of it all being in the rearview mirror, put it all behind you, you're going forward. Now dream of a 150-game Fernando Tatis Jr., age 25 season, full strength, full confidence, ready to go. That could be an 8-WAR player in big league baseball very easily.
Yeah, and he has grown so much since he first came into the league, and since he went through the suspension, and since he's gone through the injuries. He's just grown as a player in so many ways, and I think that, he's someone who's ready to show the world again that the suspension didn't stop him. That doesn't end his career. That's not going to be what he hangs his head on. He's going to move forward, and he's going to show everyone what he still has in him, and he still has a lot in him. You want some Michael King?
Yes, I just saw that. I was reading over your shoulder. Go ahead.
Adam sent that to us.
He says, Michael King says he would be shocked if he's traded, but that anything can happen. He said he's been in a clubhouse with Kyle Higashioka since 2018. It's tough that he's no longer here, but he's proud of him for that contract. Confident he'll play well with the Rangers. He leaned on his veteran teammates in his first year, praised Joe Musgrove's support and leadership. It's interesting. So he's talked about the arbitration, and in Kevin Acey's story yesterday, you know how we were like, he doesn't want to go to arbitration. In Kevin Acey's story from the community event that they were out in, Michael King has this quote where he's like, I was kind of looking forward to it. I wanted to see what it was like.
No, you don't.
Michael King,
no, you don't.
No, you don't.
Fatal mistake.
It's done.
I'm kind of looking forward to that trip to the orthodontist. Maybe it'll be fun. Who knows? Maybe tightening screws on my teeth will be really enjoyable.
Shout out
sucker for pain.
Alex Miniak, who's walking
That's
by.
right.
Yeah.
The great.
Yes, Alex Miniak, the great.
He doesn't get to cruise the ballpark ever.
Yeah.
Monster truck guru,
So, and
Alex
last thing
Minion.
on
That's right.
that was cool. Michael King says that he has not discussed a long-term contract extension with the Padres yet. So,
Fair enough.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Nonetheless, I'll repeat what we said yesterday when the deal was announced. And he's got a quote in here as well saying, he's really glad the deal got done, avoided going through arbitration. It's a process that can weigh on a player, and now both sides can move forward. That's what we were all worried about. It wasn't whether the Padres won the number or that Michael King won the number, because the difference was $1+ million. It wasn't going to affect the bottom line that much. What you worried about was the Corbin Burns effect. What you worried about was the idea of a guy sitting in a room, sitting in a room, hearing some dude in a suit that's not AJ talking about his career, talking about his Padres performance, finding
all the negatives.
Showing his fastball slider on Baseball Savant. Whatever it is, whatever they could find to try and put a negative case together. It's just hard to go from that, which is by definition, right? It's arbitration. It means it's two sides at loggerheads. To go from that to this, to a handshake, to a deal. Instead, what you are going from is from the position of a deal. They found an agreement. They found a chord. They came up with even a mutual option. We know it'll never be exercised, but they came up with this framework. Yeah. To me, that means you've got something now that you can build upon if you're going to extension talks.
Yeah, I saw this little nugget yesterday on MLB Trade Rumors, and it could have been taken from another article, but it's been more than 10 years since two parties agreed to exercise their end of a mutual option, and that was Matt Belisle. Rockies 2013. So those typically don't happen, but again, you have two sides that at least want to work together, and if they can make it work, look, I think the Padres want Michael King. I think he wants to be here. Whether or not they can make the money work, we'll have to wait and see.
Matt Belisle.
Matt Belisle of the Rockies, 2013.
Now there's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Pepperidge Farms remembers.
Dylan Cease says that he is focused on the task at hand. When asked about how he deals with his name being mentioned in trade rumors, he added that he'd love to remain here in San Diego.
Of course he would.
Who wouldn't? I mean, is anybody going to be like, man, I just really hate it here?
I would love for Dylan Cease to remain in San Diego as well.
Well, I do know Dylan Cease will be on these radio waves later today.
Yes, he's going to be on with Matt Scraby and Tony Gwynn Jr. here during the 2 o'clock hours.
And so will Joe Musgrove. And, it's so great to hear, too, from Joe Musgrove and Camp 44, everything that he's done while he's rehabbing. I know he can't be out there on the field with everyone, but he's still really being a part of everything.
Joe's 2:30 on Gwynn and Chris, and Dylan's right after at 2:40.
Well, stay right here, gang. Of course, we're here till 2 o'clock, and then they'll be rolling in right behind us. Let's take a quick timeout. Stay on clock. When we come back, we were just talking extension. What I'd like to talk about is a breakout candidate from this team. Who's somebody maybe a little under the radar that could break out, that might surprise you with a performance that moves the needle for the 2025 Padres? That topic after this timeout, live from FanFest, Section 113. It's Annie and Elsten on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 119 on the Fan. Welcome back. Danny and Elsten here with you, live from FanFest. First time we've ever ventured out on a Saturday together.
That's right.
Good to see that everything still works. And he's settling back in. We were both just chatting with Charisma during the break. The great Charisma.
She's awesome. She's awesome. She said that the bullpen guys were high-fiving all the kids that were like running the bases, which is awesome. Like,
that's sweet.
Yeah, like the Padres bullpen players that were down there. So that's pretty cool.
They had a fun day in the community yesterday.
Yeah, they really did.
Imagine showing up to Jack in the Box for lunch and Jake Cronenworth hands you your burger. Wait a minute, is that Jake Cronenworth?
Right.
Be like, what?
Jake, what's the matter, man? They ain't paying you enough?
Estrada volunteered to make the tacos over there. They're like cooking in the back and handing out burgers. And they went to the fire department, the police department, went to a couple schools. Pretty fun day.
I'm guessing Jeremiah Estrada has a personal relationship with the Jack in the Box taco.
That's right.
I just have a feeling, a San Diego guy, you know, just the connection he's had to this town. I just feel like he's eaten more than 6 Jack in the Box tacos.
I can't go to Jack in the Box without having a taco, to be honest with you. That's
a
must.
staple.
Whatever you're going to get, and they're like, I'm throwing 2 tacos.
Yeah. With the weird vertical cheese in there.
That's the best part, the slice of American cheese in the taco.
So random. Is it a Mexican food? No, it is not.
No, it's not.
No, it is not.
I don't think that's meat either. I think Annie can actually have one of those tacos.
I'm really not sure what it is.
That's why I cannot have one of those tacos. It's because I don't know what that meat, that quote meat, is made out of.
I think it's tofu. I think you're okay.
Yeah.
You might,
I think it's vegan. I think those tacos are vegan. Hey, Friday's in Lent for us Catholics. We got to get creative. I don't think that's meat. I think I can go ahead and eat the Jack in the Box taco. You never know.
All right, a little more Dylan Cease.
Yes.
He's working on being more consistent on the mound and on adding some extra pitches. He said he's using the experience he's gained, continuing to make adjustments. He's tinkering with an arm speed changeup and a 2-seamer.
Nice.
Tinkering.
The thing that most analysts are the most excited about with Dylan Cease is that he lowered his walk rate last year.
It's always a plus.
And it was kind of his number one bugaboo as a pitcher. As I remember, when we traded for him, we were describing Dylan Cease as the right-handed Blake Snell.
Correct.
And he wasn't last year because he wasn't 4 innings, 6 walks, or 5 innings, 4 walks, 110 pitches. Every once in a while, but more often than not, Dylan was able to give you those 6 innings last year. It was more, to me, he was vacillating in terms of his consistency. It would be 8 straight starts of shutout, no-hitter stuff, and then it would be 8 straight starts of serving up home runs and putting his team behind 3 or 4 runs early on. This is the most important year of Dylan Cease's career. It's his one guaranteed look at getting to market in the prime of his career with the most money available to him. I truly expect him to have a great year. But I do kind of find it a little curious that he's talking about adding pitches this year.
And he could just be kind of messing with a few things and seeing what works for him. Sometimes Ruben Niebla, too, is really good about that, about a little bit of experimentation as long as it's used in the right places. But, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is his walk year. He's a Boris client. We've seen what the prices are for pitchers this year. If he has a good year, whatever team he's with, he's going to hit the market, and he should be able to command a really good contract.
Well, with Ruben Niebla and Yu Darvish, how could you not tinker with your pitches?
True.
You could show you about 15 different ways to throw a changeup.
Well, and he says he's tinkering with an arm speed change. Okay, Trevor.
Hey,
Got some time in spring training.
Trevor was talking a lot of changeups with us.
Yeah. I feel like that would be the first person I'd be asking about a changeup.
100%.
In the organization.
Yeah.
I'll be talking, especially at spring training. He's always usually there, as he mentioned.
Yeah, he does the.
I'll be talking to him.
The
talking
Trevor
to you.
time sessions.
Yeah.
He meets with pitchers, and it's really cool that he does that.
That's why I didn't mind when you was in the bullpen for the playoffs. You're going to see like guys coming out throwing new pitches you've never seen before. Yeah. Where'd you learn that? I don't know. You just kind of showed me during the half inning.
You know what's so cool about that is Yu Darvish goes in the bullpen wanting to learn from like the Stephen Kolek,
right?
Yes,
and the Tom Cosgroves, and like he goes in there and he's like, teach me what you know, right. and I think when you're a young player like that, especially, and you've got a veteran who's as respected as Yu Darvish, you just you feel like you made it, like here you are working with Yu Darvish and figuring out some new pitches and helping him learn some new grips. Pretty awesome.
It's like having an extra coach.
Yeah.
I mean, because he's going to learn, but then he's also going to teach you a lot of his stuff, and You got Ruben and Yu Darvish back there, plus all the other pitching coaches and bullpen coaches. It's nice to have.
All right, a question I asked you before the break. Now let's dive into it. I feel like we kind of talked a little bit about this earlier in the week, but what I'm looking for from everybody in the room here is somebody on this roster, somebody already on this roster that might not be front of mind, but has the opportunity to break out and take a bigger role with this team this year than they did the year before. Who's got an under-the-radar Padres breakout candidate?
How under the radar are we talking here?
Not Jackson.
Well,
I'm going to go with the same answer I had the other day, which is Randy Vasquez.
Yes.
I think Randy has an opportunity to make a mark in this rotation and to show that kind of he can be a back end, maybe even one day a front end starter in the rotation. I think that he's going to have that chance this year.
Yeah, and then I picked Morahone this week, and when you initially said like a sleeper pick, I was thinking Vasquez, but I'm thinking, those guys in Brito, right? I mean, a couple of the guys, obviously Vasquez and Brito who came over from the Yankees, and a guy like Morahone. These are guys that were all expected to be starters and are brought in to be starters that have, found themselves in the bullpen. And now Randy Vasquez did get a decent amount of starts and was thrown to the fire a little bit, but those three players can really, without putting the pressure on them, they could really, make or break the Padres season. And if two of them end up being good or great, that solves a lot of your problems, right? That the Padres have had, and why why it was so important for them at the time to try to get Roki Sasaki. If you get Vasquez and Brito or Vasquez and Morahone to be able to have really good years, all of a sudden your pitching staff got a major upgrade. And it didn't cost you. It didn't cost you anything, right? So I think that gives them gives the team a high ceiling for what they can accomplish. Is all of these players like the ones that we have mentioned, plus the second year of Waldron, what you can see out of Hoeing, those tweener bullpen starter guys. That sets the ceiling really high for this team because you don't really know what you're going to get out of those players. Could make the floor maybe a little bit lower because if they all don't perform, then all of a sudden it might go the other way. But that really sets the win-losses, a lot higher and a lot lower than you would expect with the core group that you already have. I think those tweener long relief guys that could go either way are going to be the big determining factor on where the Padres finish this year.
All right, when we did this exercise during the show during the week, I brought up Jeremiah Estrada. I'm a big believer in Jeremiah Estrada. I think he has the ability to step into a higher leverage role this season and to inhabit it all year. Whereas last year he kind of started in the 8th inning. He wound up back in the 5th or 6th inning.
Right.
Had the illness along the way. But I want to bring up somebody else so that we just don't repeat the last segment. And that's Yuki Matsui.
Yeah.
And follow my forensic thinking here, all right? Yuki Matsui comes out of Japan. He's dealing with a larger baseball for the first time in his career. He was given a 5-year investment by the San Diego Padres. A.J. Preller looked at this young man and he said, I see an impact Major League Baseball reliever in Yuki Matsui. Beginning of the year, pretty decent. Okay. Not amazing, okay. He gets that one save opportunity in Kansas City. It doesn't work out. Felt like for 2 months after that, Yuki was ball 1, ball 2, ball 3, ball 4, right? He was always missing the zone against left-handed batters. They took him out of leverage, right? They pulled him all the way back, kind of put him back in the workshop for the second half of the season. And then, very quietly, during the second half of the season, because he was low leverage, you didn't really notice it. But that walk rate cratered. He went from walking everybody to not walking everybody. The strikeout rate improved. He stopped serving up as many home runs. But you just didn't feel the impact because at that time you've got Scott, you've got Adam, you've got Suarez, right? And so he was pitching the 7th of a game they were losing, and they weren't losing very often. I have a feeling this winter is a full reset for Yuki Matsui. He goes back in. He's had the opportunity all winter to recognize where he faltered, to recognize the steps he took to get better, And I think when you get back to an April MLB situation, that's where Schulte can start to mix him back in to leverage, can start to work him into a big sixth inning at bat against Corbin Carroll, right? Or a big sixth inning at bat against Max Muncy along the way. And if that happens and he clicks in, well, all of a sudden now, instead of losing Tanner Scott and not replacing him, maybe you're losing Tanner Scott and Yuki Matsui's replacing him.
I don't know that I'd slot Yuki in as a Tanner Scott quite yet.
I mean, not yet.
But he could have a high upside for sure. Yuki Matsui, as we talked about the other day, that the article that he did with Japan, you mentioned Tanner Scott, and it's like he said when those guys came in, he saw the difference between how that part of the that part of the bullpen was and how he was. And he realized, I've got to make a jump to be like the Tanner Scotts, the Jason Adams. I've got to make a jump here in this bullpen and go about my training differently, go about my regimens differently during the week. And he learned that from seeing those guys come in at the deadline. It was like, we joked about it last year. You had like tier A of the bullpen, and then the trade deadline hits, and they're suddenly tier B, and you've got the new tier A of the bullpen, and that's kind of who the Padres rode for the rest of the season. So you saw like that big jump between kind of the elite bullpen guys and the rest of the bullpen, and I think that those guys will learn from that. For him, the adjustment coming from Japan, having to adjust to a whole new way of life, food, accommodations, acclimation to what life is like in the United States, not to mention big league hitting, not to mention just being part of a team and playing a different kind of season that he's used to playing in Japan. All of that is just wear and tear on you mentally and physically. For me, Yuki Matsui has to trust his stuff. He's got to feel confident in himself, and he's got to trust what he has. Stop throwing so many balls. I think that's just part of being confident and having trust in your stuff. And I think that Ruben Yeba probably gave him some assignments to work on in the offseason. He's going to come in having done that and hopefully feeling a lot better about his foundation.
I know it sounded like a really hyperbolic thing to say, but now I just want to, for the record, all right? And listen, Tanner Scott broke into the big leagues at age 22. Yuki Matsui broke into the big leagues at age 28. So
is he 28?
Yeah.
Wow.
He was 29 this year.
Okay.
So, his last year was his age 28 season. But last year, Yuki Matsui, first year in the big leagues, 64 games, 3.73 ERA, 1.10 ERA plus, FIP of 3.92, WHIP of 1.165. Those numbers are pretty good. Tanner Scott's first year in the big leagues, first full year in the big leagues, 5.40 ERA, 53 innings, 76 strikeouts, but his FIP 3.4, his WHIP was 1.5. In fact, Tanner Scott didn't have a WHIP under 1.5 until his 7th year in Major League Baseball.
Pretty incredible, seeing what he is now.
Right,
yeah.
Right. So
you never know.
Point being, you couldn't have looked at Tanner Scott in 2022 when he pitched, 20 saves, but a 4.31 ERA, 5 losses, 30 earned runs in 62 innings, and go, that's going to be the next dominant left-handed reliever in baseball. But he made adjustments. He kept growing as a player. There's no reason Yuki Matsui can't keep growing as a player.
Yeah, I never want to put a ceiling on a player, and absolutely he can become absolutely an elite pitcher in the big leagues and someone that is a big threat to any hitters that are coming in the box. For Yuki Matsui, too, just the fact that, he's going to have this whole year under his belt and be able to build upon it and have guys like Tanner Scott that he watched, I think is going to be a big deal. But I lost my train of thought there, but for the Padres, they need that because they signed him to a 4-year, 28 or something?
Yeah, I think it was in 5 years.
Him and
Maybe
Peralta,
5 years?
Him and Wandy Peralta got some long deals.
My brain came back on just now. That's what you need that. You need that from him. You need Yuki Matsui to step up because you've got him. You believed in him for a reason, and you've got him now for several years, and that's a big chunk of your payroll, at least for a reliever, that you need to get some production out of.
Well, the good thing about the bullpen, if you have question marks about any part of your game, the easiest thing, or should I say the cheapest thing to acquire at a deadline is a bullpen arm.
Yeah.
Right.
Unless it's a closer, but I don't think that needs to be the case with the Padres. They got a handful of guys that can close, and it always seems like whoever they throw back there to close in this organization usually does very, very well. So if your biggest problem at the deadline is bullpen help, it's a lot easier to acquire bullpen arms because they don't cost a lot in terms of how much they get paid, and they don't cost a lot in terms of prospect capital or anything like that. It's a lot different than if you need starting pitching, which costs a lot, or a major position player or a bat at the deadline. So if that's the case at the deadline, then Padres are in a really good spot. You can find bullpen arms.
But you're paying Yuki. What are you paying him, $5 million?
Yeah, I was just going to say, here's my last brick in the wall I'm building of Yuki Matsui breakout, is the Padres are anticipating him to break out because his year 1 salary was $3.25. His year 2 salary is $5.5. He got a major raise this year, and then it goes $5.75, $6.5, and $7 million. In 2028, yeah. $7 million is an impact reliever in Major League Baseball. So the Padres believe that this young man is not an 8th reliever in a bullpen. They believe he is a top 3 reliever in a bullpen.
And he'll have to make those jumps as it goes from year to year. It might not all happen this year, but for sure, hopefully a jump from his first year to his second year. And he mentioned Yu Darvish a lot when he talked about what he learned in his first year and how he wants to emulate himself. He talked a lot about Yu Darvish and learning from Yu Darvish and being around Yu Darvish. Yuki Matsui definitely has a bond with him. Yu Darvish just talked to the media, said he feels really good physically.
Okay.
During spring training.
Good to know.
That's good.
Said that you always feel like there are things to make yourself a better pitcher. He's still working on those. But he also said that Roki Sasaki made his own decision. He said the Padres made a great pitch and greeted him with respect, but unfortunately they came up short. Darvish didn't have an opinion on whether or not Sasaki's mind was already made up. He said you'd have to ask him.
Yeah, well,
that's a good way to answer that.
Yeah, go ahead and ask him. See
yeah.
what he says, you know. You can wish in one hand and, well, never mind.
That's $7 million for Yuki, by the way, is a player option.
Ooh.
So there you go. It's a good point.
The Padres definitely need him to be exactly what Craig is trying to build him into being. Otherwise,
otherwise that option's getting picked up.
Yes, absolutely, for $7 million as part of the $117 towards the luxury tax already for 2028.
Hey, we've made a lot of commitments to this team. Here's the good news. It's a pretty dang good team.
It is.
So there's people look at the downside of commitments. There's a major upside to commitments too, which is you get to keep those players.
Right.
You don't have to rebuild your team every year. We know who's at third. We know who's at second. We know who's at short. We know who's in right. We know who's in center. We know who our ace pitchers are. We know who our ace relievers are. All we need to do is figure out the edges. 5th starter, left fielder, backup catcher, DH. 6th starter, 7th starter. These are the things the Padres need in order to be locked in for 2025. And as we are often reminded, AJ doesn't always get to the opening line and have everything done.
True.
Like many, many times we've gotten to opening day and it's like, yeah, we've still got Rugi Odor and David Dahl in right field. We're going to figure that out as we get going. We're going to figure things out. Stephen Kolek pitched the 8th inning of Game 2 last year. He pitched the 8th, all right? So things will be one thing in Game 1, another thing in Game 40, and another thing entirely at Game 100.
He likes the night before opening day moves, too. He's made a lot of those in his,
he
really
career.
Has.
Yeah, what's coming up this year?
That's right. They acquired Craig Kimbrell right before the season started.
I remember that.
And then last year, obviously, with Dylan Cease, they're boarding the plane to Korea, and Dylan Cease becomes a Padre.
Remember he did that too with Taylor Rogers and someone else. It was the first.
Yeah,
they were playing
Paddock
Diamondbacks.
Deal. Yeah.
The first week of the season, he did something.
Yeah, he made that move, and then Arias was in the middle. He's not afraid to make a move at any point.
Every time you tell that story, wherever he is in the world, Steven Wilson just has a chill go down his back. Just like, oh, God,
I still feel so bad for him. I mean, he was sitting at the picnic tables at spring training with his girlfriend, or I can't remember, his girlfriend or his wife, getting ready to board the plane to Korea. And you find out you're being traded.
South side of
it's
Chicago.
Tough.
Hey, Steven, come here for a minute. I bet you it was just like that. Hey, Steven, come here for a second. Hey, buddy.
And that's
it's even worse.
You are a Chicago
It's even
White
worse
Sox.
just because of how the White Sox play.
And if you're Dylan Cease, you're waiting for that. I mean, you're going, is that going to happen and when for me this season? And maybe it won't at all, but there is going to always be that feeling kind of hanging over you of like, hey, who's coming to tap me on the shoulder and let me know I need to go talk to AJ Preller, or I'm answer the phone and find out that you're being traded. And you try to compartmentalize that as best you can, and these guys are so good at doing that, but it's still there. I mean, it still lingers in your mind.
Does Dylan Cease look AJ in the eye?
Well, he's
right
up on
now?
the stage with him right now.
Yeah, does he look him in the eye?
He should just ask him.
Yeah.
He should be like, hey, man, hey, bro, you trading me?
Yeah, does he come up and give him a big hug and look at him dead in the eyes and go, Are you keeping me or not? Or is it like, if I don't look at him, maybe he'll forget and then he won't trade me, and then I get to stay here? Like,
If I'm Joe Musgrove, I just bring it up. So you're gonna trade this guy or what?
Yeah.
Just make it awkward for everybody.
Yeah, make it a fan
Hear the
fest.
yes.
That's right. Everybody's like, "Whoa!" Freaks out.
Yeah, no. All right, let's take our last break here on our Saturday Scrub Show. Scrabes is here. Tony Gwynn Jr.'s on his way. We got 2 more live hours of broadcast for 97.3 The Fan from Padres Fan Fest 2025. When we come back, potential extension candidates, any chance something gets done before opening day, potential trade candidates. There's a lot of chance something gets done before opening day, maybe before the opening day of spring training. And how do you keep the virtuous cycle going between the team and the fans? We'll talk about all that before we hand over the headsets to Gwynn and Chris. It's Andy and Elsten, Saturday Scrub Show edition, live from Padres Fan Fest on The Fan. We were just talking to Ethan, one of our listeners out here, and then I heard the Far Side in the background. I'm like, wait a second. Is that us?
Back on.
That would be us.
Is that Elsten's music I hear?
Yeah.
By God, is that the Far Side? Yes,
Here
it
comes
is.
Craig.
1:45 is the time. One more segment here of Annie and Elsten. Tony Gwynn Jr., Matt Scraby standing by. Chris Ello is on the road with Aztecs women's basketball. But they will be here starting at 2 o'clock, rolling from 2 to 4, and coming up in the second half of their first hour.
2:30.
Joe Musgrove. 2:40, Dylan Cease. So you'll get to hear from the right-hander whose arm is in, I don't know, a brace of some sort, and then the right-hander who's healthy and ready to roll.
He's wearing a jacket right now, hiding the arm.
Not bad.
You know, too, the second he's clear to do anything, he will be working his tail off to make sure that he can get in as much work as his doctor will allow at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
so it's pretty good.
I don't need Joe to be in the hyperbaric chamber this spring. He's going to miss the year. We all know he's going to miss the year. Be ready for spring training next year. That's this time next year. I want this interview up there on the stage for Joe Musgrove to say, I feel great. I've been throwing curveballs. I've been throwing sliders. Everything is snapping. Arm velocity is back. No restrictions. Here I go, full guns to 2026.
Yeah, Joe's got a good plan. He'll be working with the team and has a good plan in terms of just how he needs to approach this. But the good news is that he's feeling well. He's been hitting all the benchmarks to get to this point so far, and that's what you would hope, right? I mean, you just want to be coming out of that feeling as good as you possibly can and having every time the doctor look at you say, okay, good news. We can move on to the next thing.
All right, couple quick questions before we get out of here. I'm going to give you an A, B, C, D on this one. And I think I know
Are we
where
playing
we're
the match game?
Almost. I think I know where we're all going to land, but I'm going to ask the question anyhow. A, Luis Arraez contract extension. B, Michael King contract extension. C, Jackson Merrill contract extension. D, no extension. Opening day, A, B, C, or D.
Are you saying most likely to happen, or
what do we think
happen?
would happen? What do we think's going to happen?
I think D.
Nothing.
So, D.
We all say D.
And I don't think that's the worst thing in the world.
It's
I think
not.
if they're on your team still, if you still have Luis Arraez on your team, and heck, if you still have Dylan Cease and Michael King on your team, you're in a pretty good spot. You just got to worry about 2025.
I agree. I just the way everything is, and the way that you saw the Michael King contract before, how they're trying to make things work. I can't see them giving out a contract extension before opening day. And the reality is, it's like there's really no rush on a lot of those guys. I know they're free agents, or two of them are free agents at the end of the year. But at the same time, that doesn't mean you can't extend them during the season. That also doesn't mean you can't re-sign them at the end of the season either. I think you would want to use that advantage, right? Almost like in the NFL as a restricted free agent, and use that advantage like, hey, we have this negotiating window where we can get this guy under contract.
Yes.
But I just where everything is right now with the Padres, I just don't see that being very likely.
Okay, I agree with both of you, and I would pick D as well. However, having said that, I'm going to reiterate something I said earlier. I think there is a unique opportunity to sign specifically Michael King to a contract extension specifically before he throws his first pitch of 2025 in a regular season game. And the reason for that is as follows. He just came off his first full year as a starter. There is some risk associated with 2025, either the risk of injury because he just threw his career high in innings pitched, or the risk of regression because he just had such an incredible year. What if he has a slightly less incredible year? Well, if you make a deal now with Michael King, you get to bake that risk into the deal. And as a result, the average annual value goes down a little bit to reflect the risk the Padres are taking in making the extension. If Michael King goes out and throws 180 innings this year and strikes out 210 batters and has an ERA in the threes, he's going to market no discount at all, full price, Burns level price next season. I think until he gets rolling, you have this tight window that you could get something done.
Look, I think it would be great. I just don't know if while they're in this ownership lawsuit pursuit, if they can do that kind of deal right now. Now, who knows? Maybe they can. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is something that they're cooking up, that they're brewing. But if you're Michael King too, you're probably betting on yourself to have a good year, and maybe you want to see what you might be able to command at the end of the season, or what you might be able to do in free agency. But yeah, sure, I would love it if they get something done.
In a perfect world, it'd be nice to have him. And then again, you can say the same thing about Jackson Merrill, right? Too. I mean, He has another great year. His price is going to continue to go up, and then all of a sudden you start losing your leverage on potentially getting him on a deal that he cannot refuse, right? And one of those Atlanta Braves, Arizona Diamondbacks, Milwaukee Brewers deals that they have done with their young stars, where it's a team-friendly contract in the grand scheme of things, instead of, and now Fernando's a team-friendly contract now, but when you signed him, you waited a little bit to make sure he was the stud, and then he got probably a lot more than what he would have gotten if you gave him one of those deals. So, when a lot of people complain about, like, well, why can't we make a deal that Atlanta did? That's where you have to strike on those guys. So same thing go the other way, though, too. Like, if, King pitches okay, obviously as a Padres fan, you're not thrilled about it, but his price goes down a little bit. Maybe it's more opportunity for you to sign him. Same thing with, with Merrill. If he has a sophomore slump, then all of a sudden, like, hey, we can strike while the iron's hot.
Right.
But it's kind of that game of trying to, like, find the best place to offer these extensions where they're playing well. They're proving that they can be long-term assets, but at the same time, how can we get that stock at the right spot before it really shoots up and becomes unaffordable?
The guy I think that's a little bit luxurious to discuss, but I brought him up anyways, is Luis Arise. And I feel, once again, there's a little bit of a soft spot right now where you could negotiate a deal, because he's coming off one of his worst seasons. I don't want to say worst, but one of his worst seasons. He's coming off of injury. He's a year from free agency. He's one of the most confusing players to evaluate in Major League Baseball. I'm telling you right now, half the teams in Big League Baseball simply wouldn't even offer him a contract. In free agency, they'd feel like no matter what price it is, it's too much of a price. And Luis has been traded 2 years in a row, winning the batting title every time. I just think, like, there's one level where you could just do the same thing and trade him. There's another where you can just ride the season out and get a great year from him. But he does fit hand in glove with this group. And the 360, 350 hitting version of Luis Arise is one of the better players in all of Major League Baseball. So I do feel like, at least maybe Annie, it's as simple as it's a different world. It's the ownership situation, and you just don't have that ability to go long. But gosh, you feel like he's another guy that you could get for 4 years without having to break the bank.
I think you said it, though. I think the Padres have the leverage in that situation because of so many teams that might not value him as much as maybe the Padres do. And so now when you're competing against less teams, the price isn't going to rise as much. So maybe they think, we could probably compete for this guy during the offseason, where we don't need to get in there like we would have to do with King or Cease or Merrill, where all of a sudden it's through the roof and everybody wants him.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he wants to be in San Diego. I think he would love to have some stability for him and his family. Loves this team. If you're the Padres and that's the approach you want to take, the gap to gap, the line drive hitting, the just pushing guys from base to base, and not always depending on the long ball. If this is what you want for years to come, I mean, why not get him? Why not try to put him into your lineup for the next few years? I just don't know if they're at a place where they are able to lock those contracts down. I don't know what their financial future is for the next 3 years.
Right. Well, I guess that leads to the last thing I'd want to say, and I know we're on the way out, which is every time I see the fan base of the San Diego Padres, every time I come to a packed Petco Park, I come back to the idea of a virtuous cycle, the idea that the Padres have invested in their team. Now the fans invest in the Padres. The Padres invest in the team. The fans invest in the Padres. It's a cycle that grows in the right direction, and I want to see that continue in 2025. I want to see a Padres team that invests in itself, and then we invest right back in them, and that's how we go. And you don't win the World Series every year. Nobody in San Diego is bred to go, well, if we didn't get the World Series, it's a failure, because we've never won one. So what would we know about that? What we know is invest in this team, we invest back in you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to see all these fans out here.
All the fans that invested in us today.
And
thank you.
Yeah, fun to be out here and to talk to Jackson Merrill, Trevor Hoffman. Go back and listen to those interviews. They were in the first hour, beginning of the show if you missed them. But just an overall good day. I think I've seen a lot of fans smiling and having a good time, so that's a good sign.
Quinn and Chris are